Everyone has a limit, and he's reached his. This is Nick's Take, a new type of political talk show about the current status of our country, elected officials, and the rest of the world. He'll give you his take on it, from an old school anarchist with common sense and a true Generation Xer. Nothing is said from a place of hate, but this is an uncensored show. So, if you're easily offended, turn back now, Cupcake. Here's your host, the one and only, Nick B.
Yes. What is going on, everybody? Like the intro says, my name is Nick B, and this is Nick's Take. This is the political show that I do. If you don't know who I am a nationally syndicated radio host, and this is my show that I come on to do where I talk about political stuff and give you my opinion on a lot of these political things. And if you can't tell, I'm a little bit under the weather, so you're going to be hearing a lot more breathing than I normally like to do. And for the most part, I'm not going to edit this as much as I normally do, simply for time, so that I can crank more of these out. Today is Thursday, June 19th. So since the last episode, there have been a lot of things that have happened, because again, I want to do these pretty regularly, but the last episode that I did was kind of off the cuff, and it was about the senator, I believe, getting arrested at a event because he was claiming that he introduced himself and this, that, and the other, and that's just simply wasn't the case. But you can go and listen to that. I don't have to rehash the entire thing. And if you want to follow me on any of the socials, I am at It's Nick's Take on all of them. All you have to do is go and search for that username. Now, since the last episode, like I was saying, Israel decided that they wanted to attack Iran. So a lot of people are up in arms about that, and my feelings and my beliefs and what I used to hold close about Israel have changed. All you have to do is go listen to last season's last episode, and you will see how I was talking about how Israel had every right to defend itself. I think Israel went a little bit overboard on that with what they did. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not going to get into the political if, ands, or buts about it, and if they have the right to do it or anything like that. I'm just going to sit there and say, I think they went a little bit overboard, because when I was being raised by my mom, and she would tell me about fights and things like that, she would always tell me, you have to know when to stop. There has to be a point where you go, okay, they've had enough, and you pick them up, you shake their hand, you move on, right? Israel didn't do that. And while I understand Netanyahu said that he wasn't going to stop until Hamas was completely destroyed or obliterated, I understand that. But at the same time, there were a lot of innocent people that were caught up in that had nothing to do with it. I also understand the culture over there, that everybody screams death to America, death to Israel. I understand that there's a lot of other things that we have to deal with. But at the same time, I still think they should have found a way to stop the shelling, stop the bombing, stop the killing after a certain point. And I don't think they did that. By the way, if you hear rattling in the background, that's one of my chains. Or it's actually medallions on my chain. But anyway, so that's kind of where everything popped off from. Now, another thing about Benjamin Netanyahu is, for those of you that are too young to understand or remember, Benjamin Netanyahu has been screaming for over 20 years of my life that Iran was trying to get a nuclear weapon. And he has always said that if Iran ever got a nuclear weapon, they would use it on Israel. Hell, I think even Iran has said something like that. But here's the thing. Iran didn't do anything directly to Israel. And at some point, we have to say, what are you doing? Israel basically declared war on Iran for something that they could potentially do in the future. That's like a Minority Report times 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are trying to condemn them for something that they haven't done yet. All international people have said that they didn't have a bomb. United States intelligence says that they don't have a nuclear weapon. They definitely were working towards it. They were trying to enrich uranium so that they could have nuclear weapons, but there's no concrete proof that they do. And Israel just went ahead and launched an offensive on their nuclear facilities. They not only attacked their facilities, they targeted their senior specialists that had broken through the nuclear advances that you have to break through, which I know a lot of people use the, civilian cover for building nuclear bombs. Like North Korea is probably one of the best examples. They claimed that they were only going to do nuclear stuff for civilian power. They lied their asses off. And I know a lot of people do that. I know a lot of countries have done that we didn't want having bombs or whatever. But Iran, they haven't attacked anybody. And Israel just launched an offensive on them. And now it appears that the United States is going to get drug into this. And the reason for that is too many reasons right here to get into. But basically it is this long-held belief that the Christians in this country believe we should do whatever possible to protect the state and country of Israel because it is the Holy Land. It is our Messiah's people. And these are people that are misconstruing a lot of things about the Bible. 1. 2, our nation and our government are not supposed to be influenced or inspired by anything religious. Our founders set us up very specifically so that we would not get drug into these quote-unquote holy wars. And it seems like that's the only real reason why we still support Israel. Israel has done, and I'm not doing this podcast to just sit here and bash Israel. That is not the intention of this podcast. Israel has done a lot to the United States that they've never answered for. When they attacked one of our ships, it was just something that we kind of accepted and was like, oh, it was an accident. But was it really? Nothing ever happened. And then finding out that a lot of the health care that the people in Israel get, which is free health care, the United States is paying for it. Why the hell are we paying for somebody else's health care when our vets and the people here that need health care don't have it? I'm a big supporter of nobody should have free health care off of the back of us unless it's us. And I don't even believe in free health care. But I digress. So Israel attacked Iran and they bombed all these facilities. They took out a lot of their generals, and Iran was saying that they were going to get them back and that they were going to do all this stuff. And then they promised that there was going to be something that would happen in the middle of the night that people would be talking about for centuries. Nothing ever came. Nothing ever happened. And I think that was purposely done. Then we find out that Iranian TV was hacked, and they were talking about how they wanted the people of Iran to stand up against their government so that they could overthrow the government so that there would be a new administration. My belief behind that is every time something like that has happened anywhere in the Middle East, you throw a quarter at one of them and whatever it lands on. Anytime there has been a change of leadership, it's never really worked out well. Like Saddam Hussein was certifiably insane. He did all kinds of horrible things. But after we got rid of him, that country has kind of been a terrorist hub. And there's a lot of people running that country that will potentially be the next group of terrorists that the United States has to deal with. I'm at a point where it's like, I don't think the United States should be doing anything in the Middle East. I just don't believe that's where our interests should be. I'm sorry, you can hate me for that all day long. I just think we need to stay out of the Middle East and let them deal with the issues that they've got going on over there. Israel claims to be this powerhouse of a country. Why can't they handle it on their own? Why do they need the United States? Well, the military complex wants to do it, and most people with a brain can see that that's what this is mostly about. War makes money for a lot of people that are in the business of war, and that is it. That is the only thing that benefits from this, because you start talking about nuclear weapons being used, and that starts talking like end of days type things, because it's if one person sends a nuke, everybody's going to send a nuke. And that's the way the world ends. And that is the stupidest way to end all life on this planet. That is one of the stupidest ways over some misconstrued bullshit religious text where people are like, God told us to do this. We're not supposed to be working to bring about the end of days. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the most asinine thing I have ever seen in all of religion, in all of Christianity. It's like, why the hell are you working towards Armageddon? I understand you're supposed to, if you're a Christian, you're supposed to be believing in the fact that, you want to go home, you want to be with God. I get that. But at the same point, what about all the people that don't believe in that? Are you just ready to, again, according to Christianity, rush them into eternal fire and damnation? Like, that's what you want for them? That's not very Christian-like, if you ask me. And again, a lot of people are probably going to get pissed at this podcast, but if you know me, you know I don't give a damn. So it's like, why do you push so hard to go against and to create the damn apocalypse? Why do you continue to push towards that? It seems like no matter what good you are trying to do, that is everything that is going to happen, that you're just going to bring about the end of days, especially when you're talking about something like Iran, nuclear weapons. Pakistan came out and said if anybody used nuclear weapons, they were going to use theirs. It's like, see, this is where we don't want to be. This is the conflict that nobody wants to happen. Because again, everybody that has a nuclear weapon has pretty much said if anybody launches one, they're launching one. They may not have said it over this direct conflict, but they have said it in the past. That's not where any of us want to be. The people that are in power are sick with power. And that includes Trump. For a lot of you people that are like, oh, he's a MAGA, he's a MAGA. I'm not a MAGA. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that. Trump is sick with power. Trump was the president that said, he was the candidate and then the president that said he would not start any new wars. In fact, he said he would bring peace. And now he's saying that in 2 weeks he's going to have a decision on what they're going to do with Iran. Meanwhile, we've been moving all kinds of military equipment to various bases all over the place. That signals that we're getting ready to do something. The fact that he said 2 weeks doesn't really mean anything, because it's not like the United States is going to be like, we're getting ready to attack you on Monday. That's not what's going to happen. Just like before Israel launched its attack, Trump said something to the effect of, Tehran really needs to get to the table to make an agreement, and they need to do it quick. I'm not saying that they're going to attack imminently, but the attack is coming. Something to those words, because I was like, oh shit, they're getting ready to bomb Iran. And again, those of you that are too young to remember and just hate Israel for spite, you need to understand Benjamin Netanyahu has wanted this war with Iran for decades. There's a video, a famous video of Senator John McCain where he was at some event where he was talking about, hey, you remember that old Beach Boys song, bomb Iran, bomb Iran, bomb Iran? That's what they wanted. Old school Republicans wanted a war with Iran so bad that when we went to Iraq and Afghanistan, or Afghanistan and Iraq, they wanted us to keep going to Iran. And do you know who was the one person that was like, no, I don't want to do that? George Bush, the president. He didn't see any reason to go in Iran. And do you know who gave the intel to George Bush that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iran, or in Iraq? Who told the United States government and our intelligence assets that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? It was Israel. It was Mossad. It was their spy units, their intelligence units, because they wanted a war with Iraq. Why did they want a war with Iraq? That's for Israel to say. There is a guy, and I wish I could find the clip, but there was a guy, I came across his video a while back where he talked about Israel wanted 7 wars after it was founded. And he named all of these countries. And again, I apologize for my breathing and the way that I'm in the mic. I apologize. I'm sick. Forgive me. We'll get better. He said Israel wanted these 7 wars. And in those 7 wars, all of them have happened except for Iran. That was the only one that hadn't happened until literally like last week. You had Libya, Somalia, Lebanon, and he named others, and I just can't remember them all off the top of my head. I'll have to find the video and try to link that in the show notes up on the website, nixtake.com. So I find it kind of odd that since the state of Israel has been created, that those were the 7 wars that they wanted to do and that they were looking forward to getting into. And it just so happens all of them have now come to fruition. We have now allowed the state of Israel to conduct these wars. And Israel has been able to tell the entire world that they are doing this for peace. And it gets to a point where you have to really start to look at this, whether you're hardcore Christian or not. You have to look at this and go, how is this right? How is anybody still okay with this? For instance, Iran struck Israel last night, and they destroyed a hospital. And immediately this morning, Benjamin Netanyahu was standing at the rubble of that hospital, claiming Iran had committed war crimes. Yet, a few months back, and this is how Israel's memory is, just a few months ago, Israel was doing the same thing in the Gaza Strip. They were hitting hospitals. In fact, there was one story where Israel targeted the last working hospital in Gaza. And everybody was like, oh, it's because Hamas is hiding their soldiers and their bombs and everything. And it doesn't matter. That's supposed to be a war crime. If you're going to say Iran striking one of your hospitals is a war crime, then when you strike somebody else's hospital, that's a war crime. It doesn't matter the reasoning of why you struck it. Because here's the next thing. Israel showed us the precision of their weapons when they took out a lot of the generals in Iran's military. It didn't destroy the whole building. It literally hit the apartment or whatever where these people were, and that was the only damage. Israel could have done targeted assaults all throughout Gaza, and the fact that they didn't should be telling to a lot of people. But unfortunately, a lot of people aren't going to be willing to look at it because they simply don't want to admit that Israel might potentially be committing war crimes. Now, I know there's a lot of people on the left that are really quick to admit it, and that's not necessarily where a lot of people would like to align themselves with, what some people call the lunatic left. But on this one, I think they're pretty much on point. And you got to be careful because there's a lot of people that are saying things about Israel that is completely anti-Semitic. I'm not an anti-Semite. I just believe that if you're going to hold one country to a certain standard, you have to hold them all to that standard. And there shouldn't be any kind of excuse that we accept. That may be harsh to some people. That may be impossible with some people. And hell, it may be impossible. But Israel to have the nerve, like we forgot that, 3, 6, 8 months ago, they were hitting hospitals in Gaza. People were crying, hey, stop attacking hospitals. And Benjamin Netanyahu is basically like, oh, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. They're hiding terrorists there. And then Iran hits a hospital, and immediately Benjamin Netanyahu is like, this is a war crime. This is a war crime. It's pathetic is what it is. Like at the least amount, that's a pathetic response from supposedly a strong nation. It really is. Now, if Israel had conducted the precision attacks like they did in Iran against those military leaders' houses, like where they lived, again, the footage and the pictures and stuff that I've seen from that were incredible because you can see where the missile went in. The apartment complex still stands. It's not rubble. It looks nothing like it did in Gaza. It's like, wait a minute. Why didn't they do that in Gaza? If their weapons are this good, why did they destroy all of these buildings and all of these houses? That's what you got to ask. And that's what a lot of people don't want to ask because, again, it'll be a awakening moment for them. And they will see that what they believe and what they've been told through various religious organizations may be wrong. What's going on in the Middle East has nothing to do with the United States. I'm sorry. Iran hasn't attacked us to any degree. Us getting into that war is just not necessary. We don't need to do it. There's no reason. The line in the sand is that Iran hasn't attacked any of our bases. Iran hasn't threatened to do anything. Yeah, they scream death to America, but they haven't threatened to do anything to us. There are the rumors that they wanted to, send a hit squad to take out President Trump when he was a candidate. That's what some Secret Service people have said. That's what the Trump administration has said multiple times. There was no actual provable threat, credible threat, where they put it out on state media or in the paper or even on Twitter for that matter. So until something like that happens, I don't think the United States has any business being in Iran or doing anything with Israel in Iran. I apologize. My throat is killing me. So Israel is desperate to bring us into this war with Iran, and I don't think we should be there. Everything in me says that there's no good that's going to come from this. And again, doing it from the sense of they're our strongest ally. Okay, if it was England, the UK, France, maybe. But when you've got those countries that are going, wait a minute, are we sure we want to do this? You got to listen to them. Because when you don't listen to them, that's when you get in trouble. That's when you get like a Vietnam type situation. And all of these Middle Eastern countries, a lot of them have nuclear capabilities. Like, for instance, Saudi Arabia has pledged their support to Iran. Saudi Arabia is one of these countries that goes either way, in my opinion. They act all friendly with us because we buy their oil. We're one of the largest purchasers of oil, second only to China. And Saudi Arabia likes to pretend like they're our friend and that they wouldn't do anything to us. They buy our military equipment and everything because they're probably going to use all of that against us at some point. They're just waiting for the opportune moment to do it. Like, that whole situation is far more scarier than anything with Iran is. And then you got, some reports and stories floating around out there that Saudi Arabia may have had something to do with 9/11 as well as Israel. So you got to look at all of this and be like, huh. So that's all that I'm going to say about that. And again, this podcast is probably going to be pretty short because my throat is trying to kill me and I need to go ahead and edit as much of the coughs and everything out that I've already done. But I wanted to get to this before I end anything. And I have no idea how long I've been talking because the screen is just too far away from me right now. But there is a huge thing on X today that was Trump administration is shutting down LGBTQ youth suicide hotline. And it's not true. The article is coming from NBC News. And if you just read the headline, Trump administration to shut down LGBTQ youth suicide hotline, then that's going to anger you. And here's the problem that I have with this. NBC News, which is where this comes from, and again, it'll be up under show notes at nixtake.com. That headline is purposely done that way to make people believe the Trump administration is actually removing an LGBTQ youth suicide hotline. Because listen to how it's worded. Trump administration to shut down LGBTQ youth suicide hotline. And then under that, it says the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline will no longer use its LGBTQ youth service line starting July 17th. The Trump administration says the move will, quote, focus on serving all help seekers, end quote. So when you read that, it sounds like the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline, which has done phenomenal work. It's something that I support. It's something that I tell everybody they need to go to if they're having those kind of thoughts. It makes it seem like if you don't read the article, that they're shutting down the entire Suicide Crisis Lifeline. And they do this on purpose to get a rise out of people that they know aren't going to read the article. However, if you just scroll down to literally the first full paragraph, you'll get what the whole thing is about. So it starts off and it says, the Trump administration will shut down the national LGBTQ youth suicide lifeline in 30 days. Again, stoking flames. But the first full paragraph says, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration announced Tuesday that the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline will no longer use its LGBTQ youth services, also known as the Press 3 option, effective January 17th. You know what that tells me? The hotline isn't going anywhere. 988 isn't going anywhere. The LGBTQ youth services isn't going anywhere. They're removing your reasoning for pressing 3. They're getting you to the help faster, is what I get out of it. You don't have to sit there and wait to press 3. You start talking to somebody. It goes on to say the agency said it will no longer silo LGBT or LGB plus youth services, notably removing the T representing the trans community in the initialism to focus on serving all help seekers, including those previously served through the Press 3 option. The Press 3 option rolled out as a pilot program in 2022 in a government contract with the Trevor Project, a suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ people. Those in need of help would call 988 and be given the option to press 3 to connect with counselors trained to assist people up to age 25. So, again, the Press 3 option is the only thing that's changing. It goes on to say the Trevor Project was initially the sole provider of the youth specialized services and is now one of 7 centers that make up the LGBTQ youth sub-network. It came about under legislation President Donald Trump signed during his first term that acknowledged disproportionately high suicide rates among LGBTQ youths. They go on to say that Sam Haas, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, insisted that affected youths can still receive help from the general hotline number, saying, quote, everyone who contacts 988 Lifeline will continue to receive access to skilled, caring, culturally competitive crisis counselors who can help with suicidal, substance misuse, or mental health crises, or any kind of emotional distress. Anyone who calls the Lifeline will continue to receive compassion and help, the agency said. So there you go. Trevor Project CEO James Black called the decision devastating, adding suicide prevention is about people, not politics. While this is true, I still see removing the Press 3 option as a good thing because that, again, gets you to the people that can help you the quickest. I don't see why people are all in an uproar claiming that this is going to cause more people to want to harm themselves. And again, if you are, 988 is the best thing that you can do. They will help you regardless. Now, let's see. What else was it that I was planning on talking about? I don't think I have anything else here to discuss because, again, I don't really plan these. I need to get to a point where I plan them. I used to print everything out and get ready for it, but I didn't do that. I do want to speak on this pretty quickly because I don't know how much longer my throat's going to let me. I'm going to take some water right now. So, Mayor Karen Bass of LA, she tweeted out, a mass deportation agenda isn't just cruel, it's catastrophic for California's economy. A new study shows it could cost us $275 billion. That's jobs lost, businesses shuttered, and families torn apart. You know what I hear out of that? That you are making $275 billion off the back of illegal immigrants, and you're taking advantage of that. Because everybody's like, the illegal immigrants are the only ones that will pick our fruit, or pick our vegetables, or do farm work, or do construction work. Do you know why? Because the companies that run those organizations that hire these illegals, they don't pay well. And illegal immigrants are coming from a place where even the pay there was way worse. So anything that they're getting here is already an improvement versus what they were getting there. And you're telling me California is going to lose $275 billion because illegals were removed. That tells me that the illegals that were working there were making this state $275 billion out of something they would never see a return on. So they're giving that state $275 billion, yet the state is turning a blind eye to the fact that these organizations are abusing these illegals, for lack of a better term, because they know they don't have to follow the rules when it comes to the illegals. I would venture to bet all of the people that are doing the farming and everything in California that are illegal aren't being paid minimum wage. There's no way they're paying them minimum wage. Because if they were, there'd be other people out there doing it that needed the jobs. A lot of the so-called, white people or black people of America that don't want to do those jobs is because they're not getting paid enough. If you send a white guy out there, he's going to want $35 an hour because he's got to be in the heat. Those people that have been here, the Americans that have been here, know what to ask for when they go to a job. If that job is a demanding job, they're going to ask for money. An illegal immigrant's not going to. So California turns a blind eye and is like, oh, we don't care what you pay them. As long as we're getting that $275 billion a year off of them, that's all they care about. They don't give a shit about these illegals. They want to grandstand and stand on their soapbox and pretend like they do, when in reality, Mayor Karen Bass right here just told you exactly why they care. Because they're going to lose $275 billion. Want to know why? Because they're going to have to get alternative people to do those jobs. Those people are probably going to be Americans that aren't working, and they're going to want fair compensation. Illegal immigrants typically don't want to cause a fuss. I'm just saying, that ain't something I'd be bragging about while you're sitting there trying to claim that you care about illegal immigration and illegal families and all this other stuff. And then you're like, we're going to lose $275 billion because of this. That just makes it seem like all you really care about is the money. Now, that can't be true, is it, Mayor Karen Bass? No, that can't be it. Because then that would mean a lot of the people that have been saying this for decades about how the system mistreats illegals simply because they are illegal would be true. But that can't be it. It's got to be something else, right? It couldn't possibly be that. Another thing that they are in an uproar about, and this will have to be the final thing, is the Supreme Court upheld a ruling that Tennessee had the right to deny trans youth surgeries because the people in Tennessee didn't want to be paying for that. It's something that the people of Tennessee don't believe in. I'm not arguing if it's right or wrong. I'm simply saying the rights of the people of Tennessee were, we don't want this happening in our state. They made it law to where they didn't have to pay for it. They didn't have to, be part of it. They didn't want it, so they outlawed it, right? That's what's known as a state's issue. Somebody didn't like that. They thought it was discrimination, so they sued. And the courts took it up, and it made it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically ruled that Tennessee had the right to do that. Why? It's not because they don't want the trans youth to get access to health care, unlike what a lot of people are screaming. It's a states' rights issue. And this Supreme Court, whether you like it or not, are all about states' rights. The states have the right to do whatever their people want. We're not saying you can't go have an abortion. You're just saying you can't do it in some of these states. We're not saying you can't do transgender surgeries. We're just saying you can't do it in some of these states because those people that live in those states don't want to pay for it. And they should have a right to do that. And the Supreme Court agreed. But now, all over X, again, all over social media, the left is like, trans youth are going to die because of this. There are organizations that will pick you up, that will pay for you to travel anywhere in the country that still has abortion so that you can get your abortion. I imagine there will be something like that for trans youth. Nothing is going to change. It's still legal in New York. Find somebody that will finance you, that will, sponsor you, support you, whatever the case may be, so that you can go up there and get the surgeries. All they're simply saying is in Tennessee, they don't want to pay for it. And the Supreme Court agreed with them. That's democracy, people. A lot of people don't understand what democracy means. This is democracy in action. The Supreme Court said no, the states and the people of that state have the right to how they want to live. That's a beautiful thing. I know you may see that may look at it and think it's not, but in actuality it is, because flip it around. What if they were trying to force something on you that you didn't believe in? It's the way that the Constitution is written. The states and the people of those states have the right to set it up and live however they want, whether you like it or not. That's going to do it for this episode of Nick's Take. If you want to learn more about me, go to nickstake.com where you can see previous episodes and everything. There are no videos currently because our video equipment is down. A piece of equipment broke and we just haven't gotten the new piece in yet. As soon as that gets in, we will have the video back up to go with all this. But for now, all of the video is basically just going to be an audio of this, and it's going to be the video holder. Okay, so that's just the way that it's going to be for a while. Hopefully I will feel better by the next time I do this. Don't know if I'll do another one tomorrow or not because I've pretty much pushed my throat. I had laryngitis, which was really messing with me. My throat's pretty sore right now after doing this, but we'll see. We'll see how it is tomorrow. And if my throat's good to go, then we'll do it again and we'll see what happens. I can't leave you without giving you my customary goodbye. My customary goodbye is simple, and it is this. Hug your loved ones each and every day because you never know when the good Lord will call them home. For every dark night, there's always a brighter day, and life is just a party, and parties weren't meant to last. Y'all be good. I'll talk to you as soon as I can. Follow me on all socials. I am at It's Nick's Take on all of them. Y'all be good. See you soon.
Wow, that was something. The proceeding was produced by Nick B. Entertainment. All rights reserved. Don't even think about using any portion of the show without the express written consent of Nick B. Entertainment. We'll get you. To learn more, subscribe, or to see what the hell we're up to, visit www.nickbnation.com. Y'all be good, and we'll see you next time.